Hello, this is an LLN robot system walkthrough designed specifically for enrolment officers and LLN specialists. For administration users, there will be a secondary video available for you, which will give you more detail on the system settings and higher level functions that you have access to. So if you're an administrator, you would need to watch this video and the second video for the further information. But for those of you who are watching this one, this will give you a walkthrough of the system and an understanding of how everything works within it. This is our homepage. Your deployment will have its own homepage with your own company logo on the top there. There is access for learners to access the default level quiz that you have set in the system from here as well. And we'll talk a bit more about that with our administrators later, but that's what this left 2/3 of the screen is about. On the right third here is where you log in. You use your email address that you use to register for the system and the password you've been provided to log in. If you've forgotten your password, click the Forgot Password button, type in your email address, hit Reset Password, and a new temporary email address will be sent out to your, a temporary password will be sent out to your email address for you to access the system. Once you've typed in your email and password, click Login, accept the terms and conditions, and that brings us to the results screen. The first screen that you'll see is the results screen. So all of your navigation for the LLN robot system is down the left-hand side here, as you can see. Some of you won't have access to the settings or analytics parts. These are for administration users. And some of you will only have access to the invitation area. Again, it'll depend on your user level. If you feel like you need access to something other than what you have access to, please speak to your system administrator and they'll be able to determine whether they can upgrade your access or not. Importantly, also the help section, which we'll look at a little bit throughout this. So you can access the help at any time by clicking on this help button on the right hand side, and all of our help pages have fully comprehensive articles on each of the factors within the system. Gives you a step-by-step instruction on how to do those particular things and walk your way through using any of them. So you'll find this is a really, really useful tool, and I will be referring to it throughout the session today. Okay, so to give you an idea, on screen you'll get your results page when you first come into the system. This will list all of the results of people who have completed the quiz, also those who have been invited and haven't completed yet, or have started and not completed. They'll be listed as those with a recent invitation, and no date and time will be logged for those at this point. You can sort any of these by just clicking on the heading column above, and you can also search them by typing in search strings, and that will minimize and reduce the thing to show only what the search strings that you've typed, just to give you some idea of how that works. Also, you can select learners by clicking on the tab, and you can delete learners. The system will give you a warning. Are you sure you wish to delete these learners? Please note that once you delete a learner, we cannot recover it for you, so please be very certain that you're doing that before you go ahead. You can select all learners at once by clicking on this tab up the top, or clear your selection there, and it also tells you how many learners you have. You can also search by date ranges to determine which learners you want to get access to. In this sample system, we don't have a lot of learners on screen, so it's easy for them to see them all in the one place, and these are all just samples and examples and test ones that we've done. As you can see here, the results are graded by learning, reading, writing, oral communication, and numeracy. Obviously, our Vet Student Loans quiz, which we'll get into a little bit more later, has a different set of data, so the data's not sorted the same. And we also have our ACSF3 short course quiz, which only tests reading, writing, and numeracy. So that'll only show reading, writing, and numeracy scores and show zeros for the others. As you can also see, for each learner, they have what we call a learner card module, which is over on the right-hand side here. You can access that by clicking on that. And that brings up extra information about the learner, including extra fields that you might have for information you would like to collect on the learner, which we'll get into a little bit more later. Those details can be edited from here. Further down the screen, you'll see the quiz results. So which quiz they completed, the ACSF4, when it was completed, how long it took to do the quiz, and then it'll give you what's called a spiky profile, showing you the levels that the learner attained in each of them. At the bottom of this card, you have a number of reports available to you. So you can export a summary, which is just a summary of that particular learner, all their information and what they scored. You can export an answer report. This answer report will show you again the score, how long they took, what the average time's been taken, all of the learner information, which questions they got right and wrong, and then it will actually show you a list of their incorrect answers and what the correct response should have been. So this information is valuable if you're analysing the learner's skills and you want to see where they went wrong. It could be quite useful as well. We also have what we call a profile report, which is a more advanced report. This particular report shows both the exit and working levels of the learner based on their results, and gives a full explanation of what each of those levels means based on where the learner's at the time, and explains where the learner's at working level or exit level or both, depending on their score. So essentially it's almost like a half level score for each levels of the ACSF. Some sectors require this for funding, that you need to know exit and working levels, so this report is available via the learner card modal. Also, you have the option to edit results. You can change a learner's results based on any information that you may have ascertained from the learner yourself. So you may have interviewed the learner and determined that this particular learner had an oral communication skill that was higher than was shown by the quiz. And so you would adjust that there, and it requires you to put in a reason for the change. So in this case, you would say, personal interview, and save that. The system keeps a log of who made the change, when the date was changed, and the reason for the change, and what the changes were as well, so you can see the previous result and the new result. So the data is fully traceable as far as that's concerned. So that's the learner card modal, which gives you all kinds of information. The other thing that it will show, which it doesn't show in this one, is if a learner is partway through the quiz, it actually shows their progress through the quiz as well, but because this is a completed one, it isn't showing in there. Okay, so that gives you an idea of the results screen. There's also a button down the bottom here called Upload Learner Submissions. You won't use this particularly often, but occasionally if a learner finishes the quiz, but the quiz does not have internet connectivity for the results to be sent to the server, it will prompt the learner to, it'll download a file on the learner's computer and prompt them to email it to you. When they email you that you just select the Upload Learner Submission. It's a fully encrypted file, so the learner can't read it. Select the file here, add it, and upload it, and it will put those results within your results screen. Next, we're going to look at the invitation module of the system, where you can invite learners to participate in the quiz. So as you can see on the navigation screen on the left-hand side here, you have either the option to invite a single learner or multiple learners. Firstly, we'll look at inviting a single learner. This part of the system will allow you to, the system to send an email directly to the learner from you with a link to the quiz for them to participate in. Which quiz they participate in is determined by you selecting the quiz type at the top here. It's important to note at this stage that the Vet Student Loans quiz is only accessible via an invitation via the Invite Single Learner or Invite Multiple Learner module. And that's the only way they can access it, so you can't give them a direct link to the Vet Student Loans quiz. So once you've selected your quiz, you put in the learner ID information, which might be a USI or whatever it may be, student number. You can put in student first name, surname, their email address, and what other information that you'd like to put in for the learner, and hit invite. As you can see down the bottom here, it says the learner invitation has been sent, and you can see when you go back to your results screen that that particular learner we just put in there has been sent an invitation. And then they have a learner card modal and a resume quiz link and all of those things that we talked about earlier. So, and you can do that multiple times and continue to invite learners one by one in that fashion. all of the learners' information will be populated at the start of the quiz for them, so that way they just go through, confirm everything, and start doing the quiz. You have the option to invite multiple learners. So once you do that, you can click download, and that'll download a spreadsheet for you. You can then open up that spreadsheet, populate the information in it as required, and save it. Please note that you need to remember where you've saved it so you can access it again shortly. Also, it's important to note that if you need to put in the right code for each of the quizzes, so for the specific quiz you want to invite them to, and that needs to be typed the same as the text at the top here in the spreadsheet. Once that's done, you can then choose to upload a spreadsheet. You can view which learners you've invited in that spreadsheet to check to make sure you've got the right tests and their details, and then click invite, and that'll send out an invitation email to the multiple learners, and those learners will again display in your results screen. So next we're going to work through the course profiles section of the system. As you can see over here on the left, you have the option to select the courses section, which highlights all of the profiles of all of the courses that you are likely to enrol your learners in, or you deliver in your RTO. So the way this is structured is that whenever anyone adds one of these course profiles into the system, it's available for all users to use at any given point in time. And it's quite a straightforward process to add them. So first of all, what you do is you select Add Course. You type in the title of your course, so it might be a Certificate 3 in Business, for example. You select the qualification level up to Diploma, and then you can add in unit by unit the courses that you'd like to, the units that you train within that qualification. You can either type in the unit code, or you can type in keywords, and it will bring up units that have that in the term. Obviously, the more specific you are, the more finite you can get with the selection that you make. And once you've selected all of the units that you would train in that particular course, you hit save, and then what that does is it brings in the course profile score for that particular unit of competency. Now, the way of that particular qualification that you're training, the way this works is that the system goes away to training.gov, grabs all of the language from each of the units of competency that you select out of the system. It does a full trigger word and trigger phrase analysis and gives the unit an ACSF score across the 5 profiles. When you put all of those grouped together into a course, what it does is it takes the highest score from each of the different domains, and that becomes the qualification score. It doesn't average them. It takes the highest one because obviously for you to complete that particular course, you would need to have a skill level of the highest level in each of these things, because something for that will come up. Once you have that course in place, you can also edit it, delete it. You can export a PDF of the course profile if you want as well, so you've got some options to modify and change it as you need to. I'll explain why we do these now, and then how they work in line with a bigger picture of LLN Robot. So once you have your learner results come back through for a learner, and this is kind of the core process in using LLN Robot, you can then determine which course you're enrolling them in and get an LLN profile for each learner and their skills against the course they're being enrolled in. So you can either select single learners or multiple learners, depending on whether you're doing a whole class or a cohort. Today we'll select a couple. We click Export LLN Report. We select the course that we're enrolling them in, which was our Cert 3 in Business that we just built, and click Export LLN Report again. And what it does is it generates our LLN report for that cohort of learners against the course we've got them enrolled in. So it just gives you a summary as to which learners are in the report. It gives you a group results summary, so you can see where the learners sit against the course profile. It then breaks down the skills for each learner and gives you a report for each learner. So this particular learner, that was their score against the course level, and what it does is it puts an action plan in place for you. So in some cases there'll be no action required. In this case, under oral communication, there's training recommendations provided, and those training recommendations will give your trainers the techniques to help upskill the learner and help them bridge the gap between where they are and where they need to be at the end of training. In our second one, the learner's got some training recommendations as well as training supplements generated. Now, these supplements will be emailed to you. The links to the supplements will be emailed to you on completion of this report based on your login, but you can also download the supplement by clicking the link. And what that'll do is that'll actually generate the supplement for the learner, and you can forward that onto the learner, and they're all self-paced for them to be able to work through to help them upskill between where they are and where they need to be for the training that you've got them enrolled in. It's important to note that the course profile score that we have come up here under courses is not an entry requirement. This is actually designed to be where the learner will need to be at when they've finished training. And so there's going to be implied growth of skills across the learning period. Some of these courses might run for 6 months, 12 months. So the learner's going to naturally upskill over that part. The important part about this is that you can put support processes in place for the learner to help them bridge any gaps over the period of training time. So don't take these scores as the learner needs to have these as a minimum to be able to start the course. This is more where the learner's going to need to be at the end of training. So to give you an idea, here's a training supplement that's been generated for this particular learner based on their needs, and it's a fully self-paced thing with lessons all throughout, and it has exercises that the learner can do to help them just get an understanding of what the types of things that are going to be coming up for them during training. These are all based in the community domain, so there's no bias about the learner having any predefined skills about a particular industry. This just helps them get an understanding of the concepts that are likely to come up during the course of training. And so that's fairly straightforward, but that's the course profile section. Again, it also has the search functionality, so you can, if you have multiple courses in there, you can search by name and narrow them down a little bit to select the one that most suits your purposes. The next section we're going to discuss is your LLN resources section of the system. You can access that by clicking on this button on the left that says LLN resources. Once you've selected that, that'll take you to this page here, and essentially these LLN resources are a range of downloadable documents that will give you some extra bits and pieces to help use the system. So we have things such as mapping to the Australian Core Skills Framework for both the quiz and for the training supplements. We have some model answers for the training supplements if required, some extra numeracy skills revision sheets. For administration level users, we have these ASQA implementation information document, which may be useful just to show you how to implement the system within your business. We have copies of all the different training supplements that you can use throughout it, and we also have a user guide for Vet Student Loans LLN assessment tool, again, which would probably be a bit more on a administrator level. You can access any of these documents just by clicking the download icon, and it will download the relevant document for you in the system. And apart from that, that's as straightforward and simple as that. Lastly, and most importantly, I'd like to introduce you to the help section of your LLN robot system. We touched on it earlier, but it is a terrific tool and a fantastic resource. So that can be accessed by clicking the help button in the top right-hand corner here at any time, and it will take you to our LLN robot help page. If you need to find it, it's actually at support.lln.training. Now, from within this system, we have a number of different menu items. You can actually search the knowledge base for anything that you might be interested in. So if you wanted to look at deleting learners, you can see you start typing in and it starts populating information for you to look through. I'm just going to highlight a couple of the more important sections. The general section is really quite helpful about accessing the system. One of our most common questions is ACSF versus AQF. What does ACSF 3 mean? Is that the same as AQF 3 or Cert 3? Very interesting to have a read of if you need to do that. Talks about course profiles, overview of the dashboard, all of the system settings, and also things like system user roles, which we've discussed. We're talking about enrolment officers and LLN specialists and what level of access they have. All of that is outlined here within the help section. Probably the most critical part, and the thing that if you can find the time to do, is to have a quick look through the frequently asked questions. These are all the common questions that our clients ask us about the system, and they're explained in a really comprehensive fashion. So if you can't necessarily always get through to our support team to get an answer nice and quickly, all of the answers to the vast majority of your questions will be definitely covered in the help. So please feel free to make use of the help as much as you possibly can. And all of the help has step-by-step instructions on how to do things as well. If you can't find what you need in the help, there's a contact button up in the top corner here. You can put in all your information, upload a screenshot if you need to, and our support team will get back to you as soon as possible to deal with any of the issues that you might be having.